Hey, Freedom family, I hope you're doing well today. I want to take you through a very fun exercise that I'm calling it the post-it note timeline exercise. And this one's going to be a journey. We've been talking about how do I see God? And this exercise is kind of meant to give us a big picture take of your life. Now, I'm going to just tell you right off the bat, this one's going to take some time. You're going to have to set aside a good 3 to 4 hours. It might even take 3 to 4 days because you're going to be reviewing your life, the people, places, circumstances, and I'm going to walk you through each step. But we're going to be journaling through your life, and we're going to see if, as we do this, where was God? And what was he saying? And I did this a while back when I was in seminary. Some people know it as a cemetery. That's another thing for another time. But I went through this, and this was very powerful for me. And the post-it note timeline. So what you're going to need. Here's what you need. Post-it notes. You need at least 2 colors. Now, some of you guys can go crazy and do a couple. That's fine. You need at least 2, and you'll see why in a minute. A poster board would be helpful. You're going to need some space for a decent sized poster board, because you'll see in a little bit, once I kind of take you through it, that you're going to kind of chart out some of these things. But again, if you're willing to do this, I think you will gain. It will be worth the 3 to 4 hours. You're going to gain some insight into your life. Maybe even face some things. Maybe even break free from some things. Hopefully, I believe you'll see some new things where God has been in your life. Where is God? You'll see where he's been. You also see maybe even where you're at right now with God. What is he doing in your life, and where is he leading next? So let's jump right in. Let me explain this to you. I'll give a write-up of this as well for those who do not like video, who'd rather like a write-up. And the step 1 is the positive. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your choice, whatever you want to represent. I'll take pink. Pink is good. All right. So we'll make this the positive. And what you're going to do is for anything that you can think of, you're going to list the positives, 1 per post-it note in your life. And so what I want you to do, I want you to think about kind of 3 areas. There's really no rules on this, but to get your brain going, think about events in your life. Positive. I graduated. So I'm going to write graduate on, I'll put high school because I graduated college too, but we'll say graduate high school, right? Wherever you have it, just put it up there, anywhere. All right. So another one, I met Rita, my wife. That's when we first started dating. Okay. So people, we got married. I'll put that up there. Boom. Any event. I know Rita's a person, which will go, that's another one. You name people, classmates, family members, friends, pastors, mentors. Maybe it's someone you've never met before, but they've influenced and shaped your life. Go ahead and do that. I would also, like for me, when I moved to Los Alamos, which is another event, so I'll go ahead and write that down. Move to Los Alamos. But that was also, for me, well, this would be on the next one. Step 2 would be on the negative, okay? So you're going to do the same thing for the negative. You're going to list negative events or people or circumstances. But I'll put one up that was a particularly lonely time for me. I didn't really have any friends. So you're going to take the second color, and that's going to be your negative post-it note. So anything that has a negative connotation with it, put it on the yellow. Anything positive, make it 1 color. Anything negative, put it in the other. And so you're going to list people, the positive people and friends and family members that shape your life, events, positive events, and then also circumstances, something that changed your life direction. So a new job, a promotion, um, a new house, a new move, anything that you deem as positive. And this is kind of like what I would call just you're vomiting stuff out. Vomiting doesn't sound good, but just like don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself to just, oh, I got married, I got a job, we had kids. Like if it happens to come across your brain, don't overthink it. Just write it down and put it on there. You'll sort it out later. So that's why I say just do a brain dump or a brain vomit on anything positive in your life. And this is going to take some time. That's why it might take a couple days, because you're like, oh, that was a positive. I totally forgot about that. Kind of fun. Now, step 2 is you're going to go through and do the same thing, only with the negative. And let me just tell you, this could be triggering depending on what you've gone through. So, and there might be some stuff that you're dealing with now. It may be some stuff that you haven't dealt with. You might have to wrestle with some forgiveness. So again, I'm not necessarily going to apologize for going through some tough stuff, but sometimes you got to name these things as part of the healing process. So again, don't limit yourself. It was a person, an event, or a circumstance. If you write it down and you see that as a negative, give it the other color and put it on there. So what you'll end up with, if you really spend the time and invest in it, what you're really looking for. I mean, I'm not going to put a number on it as like, oh, well, this is good and this is bad. But I mean, like when I did this, I think I had upwards to 100 or so Post-it notes of different people, places, circumstances, in a mix of colors. So once you have that done and you've got it in a space where you can just put it all, now you're going to go to step 3, which is you're going to try your best to put these in chronological order. All right. So you're going to look at them all and you're like, okay, this was here, this was here, this was here. And then when I get down to the bottom of whatever I'm using, I'll create a new column, and you just kind of work yourself over. It's backwards for you guys, but you're going to make a timeline of it, put it in order, and you're going to see this mix of good and bad together. That's an interesting journey in and of itself, just to try to remember when did these things happen. And again, you don't have to get it perfect, but get them pretty close. Now comes some of the fun parts. And this is, again, where spending some good amount of time in this, you really start to think and see through. And that's a step 4, where you do your best to look at that chronological order and maybe give it some chapter names, where you say, you know what, here's a kind of a section in my life, childhood development or something like that, in the early years or something. Okay. But then as you move on, and you might say, here's a chapter, here's a chapter, here's a chapter. I would limit yourself to about no more than 6 or 7. Really, ideally, look for about 4 or 5. Okay, don't give yourself 20 chapters. Really narrow it down, limit it to about 5 or 6. Again, no specific rules, but I think it's better if you can say, okay, here's these chapters, and give them names, what was going on. And so, for example, let me just kind of show you what this will look like. If you have this. Nope, we don't want to do the bonus yet. Right here. No. Oh, it's in my next scene. How about that? The Post-it note timeline. So you see in the middle there, you have the chronological order, and then it's split up with vertical lines that are representing different sections. There's 4 sections. And you would take a top Post-it note, maybe choose a different color, or you don't even need a Post-it note, but you're going to give that section a chapter name. Like you're telling a story with your life. Your life is telling a story. How would you title the chapter of that book or that story? And so, for instance, if you a couple years ago when I did this, the final chapter that I had created for me, I titled it "Fueling." That last chapter, this was a while back. I titled it "Fueling." Like God was fueling me up for something, and I didn't know what. Now I'm leading in freedom, and so I feel like I know what he was fueling me up for. But during that time, it was so helpful to identify the things that I was facing in leadership, new things, challenges, conflict, those things. It was so much better to know, hey, I'm in a time of fueling right now. So even though I may not like this is, I believe God's preparing me for something, and I could see that. I didn't just name it fueling because I felt like that was a good name. No, I could see all the people that God had placed in my life, the circumstances and the events that had taken place to say, no, this is a fueling stage right now over these last several years. So it was really cool to go down on that timeline, break it down and say, this is where God has taken me. Now, finally, the last step, if you want a bonus one, that right there is enough. But if you want a bonus step here, you could go on and do some lessons learned. Okay, I have the chapters um, labeled, but what were some of the lessons learned in that season? And so you see that bottom row of Post-it notes where you can add in some lessons learned. And so for me, I would look at some of the negatives in my life mixed with the positives, and I could see in my life, especially in the chronological order, where I saw some of the negative things, and I'm like, man, I was trying to do things on my own during that time without God. And so I learned I really can't achieve what I want to achieve without God. There was some other things when I ran from the church, and again, this is me and my story. I put in the lessons learned was like, church is vital in my life. There were some negative things, or I made some bad decisions when church wasn't a part of it. So that was another lesson learned for me. Another lesson learned for me was, hey, I am imperfect. I have too many negatives in here that weren't from other people, that the negatives were things that I caused in my life. Yet God can still use me and does choose to still use me despite all my imperfections. Lesson learned that he still uses me. I needed to see that because, again, if I look at just the negatives and dwell on that, I mean, like, God can't use me, shouldn't use me. But then I see in the timeline when I did that, that's a lesson learned. I also learned that my love for other people, my ability to love other people and love them well, was fueled by those times when I was just really having a deep, loving, intimate relationship with Jesus. Like, my love for others was fueled by my love for Jesus. And so that helped me, because there's times when I'm like, gosh, how do I reach out to people? How do I love them more? How can I be more giving, more generous, more the things that I value and want in my life? I can do. Well, when I was closer to Jesus, those things were just flowing out of my life. So that's helpful to look at that. That right there is the Post-it note timeline exercise. And this is for you. This is really between you and God. How do I see God in my life? This was an exercise that I'll never forget. It took me about 3 to 4 hours, and it was worth every penny. To look at it and say, yes, God was here, God was there. I didn't like this in that moment in my life. I was questioning, God, where are you? God, I don't want this. I don't even think you're there. And then being able to look at it in retrospect, and also look at it in the timeline and say, oh, He was there, and he was actually using that for a purpose. And that is so helpful to know when we're battling issues right now in our own lives. So I think it's worth it. You're going to have to clear out your schedule and some time to do it. You're going to have to be ready to face some tough things if you really want to do this exercise and do it well. But again, I think it's worth it. It is between you and God. This is for you. How do you see God working in your life? At the same time, you have a story, and it's so much better when you tell your story. This is going to help you tell your story. So as you're watching this, um, you want to comment and let us know, hey, these are some of the chapters that I saw in my life. If you want to comment and say this is some of the lessons learned that I've had in my life, share that. Even better than commenting, make your own post on your own personal profile, or go into the Freedom Online group and share some of those things. Make a video and say, this is what I've learned. I think all of those things are healthy to be able to share your story, because your story is going to impact my story. Your story is going to encourage me as I'm dealing with some things in my story. And when I say me, I mean just the me around me, everybody else. We need to hear your story. You have a beautiful story, and God's telling it. And some of you have never gone through your story like this to say, wow, what is God doing in my life? Where was he? What's next? What's potentially next in my life? Beautiful. It's a beautiful timeline. Get yourself some post-it notes. Have some fun. Go through it. Challenge yourself. And we'll just see what God's doing on the other side. Have a great day, and know freedom no matter what next post-it note you're going to put down next in your life. Just know this, believe this, the best is yet to come. Have a great day.